Welcome to the podcast editing and support show. My name is Dave. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start the episode right now. Happy to have you here. Let's do this. All right. Yes. Nice to be back with you. Hope you're doing well. Your podcast business is growing. Things are happening for you. I hope this is what's happening, and thank you for being here. Thank you for pressing play. I was reading an article recently, and I'll have a link for you in the show notes, as you know how we do things. It was about how to fire consulting clients professionally and how to do it the right way. So if you're looking at a way to fire your clients as a podcast editor and support person, I know it doesn't feel good, but how do you do it and protect your business and your sanity at the same time? I'm glad you're here. Let's dive into what we're going to talk about today. I'm sure you're going to find some value in this, and I'd love to hear your comments. Always reach out to me, podcasteditingendsupport.com. Thanks for being here. Let's get into this. Here we go. It's a weird conversation, and the longer you work with clients, the more you might come across this. And it's nothing fun to talk about, and it's the opposite of building a business, it seems like in the moment, when you have to fire one of your clients. You got to let them go. Just got to look at them and go, we're done here, time to move on, and you're going to actually fire a client. Wait, Dave, but this is my income. Yes, but there's reasons why you might have to make this decision. And what do you do? How do you address it? And kind of what kind of supports are there for you as you navigate the world of letting go a client? Again, not fun at all. But knowing when to end a client relationship as a podcast editor and support person, although it's tough, it's sometimes necessary, and it's a step that you might need to take to protect your business, your reputation, your well-being. So I want to give you a practical list and a guide on when to consider letting a client go, how to do it professionally, and what you can try to do before making that final call. When to consider firing a podcast client could involve any of the following. There's a lot of different things that could come into play here when considering to fire a podcast client, and it could be as simple as constant payment issues, chronic late payments, missed invoices, or clients who go silent when it's time to pay up for the services you've already done in advance. There's a lack of respect at times between clients and podcast editors and support people, a lack of respect for your work, your time, your expertise, your love, your passion that you pour into every edit, every support request. You love doing this. And there's a time when sometimes your clients just don't respect you. And it shows in late payments and this inconsistent relationship of services offered and payment rendered. Also, disrespecting your boundaries. Some clients might ignore agreed upon communication times or the way to communicate. They may demand last minute changes of things that you've done. There could be a disrespect of your personal time to create that could actually end up creating ongoing stress and an instability in the relationship between you as an editor and your client. There could be unreasonable demands or impossible to satisfy requests from your clients. We've had these clients in the past, and you can probably think of a few, or you will in the future, who are never happy. No matter what you do, you could rebuild the world for them, and they would still find a problem with it. They would still challenge you, and they would still seem unsatisfied, and just, they're nitpicking at everything. They make unrealistic requests. They give you very short timelines, demand short turnarounds. It can drain your energy, and it can impact your work with other clients. It can have a ripple effect into your entire life. Is it worth working for that client? It might be time to fire them. There could be a breach of your contract or unethical behavior on the part of your client. When inappropriate conduct has happened, it could be a clear line in the sand that it's time for you to make a change. It's time for you to let that client go. I know, it's not fun. There could be toxic or abusive behavior, verbal abuse. Maybe they treat you or your team in a very negative way. There could be harassment or bullying, or it's never acceptable in any situation for that. And you could be on the end of that, kind of receiving it all the time from somebody. When is it time to call it and say, this is enough? My team, myself, we're not going to accept that type of behavior, and it's time for you to prompt immediate action. For the sake of your team, for the sake of your well-being, it might be time to consider firing your podcast client. What might save the relationship, though? It seems very negative. I know right off the top, it's like, fire them, fire them, fire them. But what? Hey, wait just a second. What might save the relationship before letting go of a client as a last resort? Here's some thoughts. A wise person many years ago told me that if somebody has a problem with you, you might actually be part of the problem. And I'm like, that doesn't seem right. But yeah, it could be. There could be something that has happened with your interaction with this client that has got you to this place where you're considering firing them and severing this relationship between you as a podcast editing and support person and them as a client, as a podcaster. It might be you. In that, there's an opportunity before you decide that this is not going to happen, you're not going to go through with this, work with this client anymore. Consider these 4 things. First, reopen the communication. Clearly express your concerns and ask if the issues can be resolved between you and your client. Sometimes it's just a candid conversation. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be a misalignment. There's something happened here. Things are great when you first started. Otherwise, you wouldn't even have accepted them as a client in the first place. So something happened, and it could be you. Revisit the boundaries and the expectations within the contract that you have with your client and say, here's what we agreed on. What's changed? Can we work through this? Can we adjust? And have that conversation. Remind the client of your original agreement, the deadlines that you both agreed on, the commitments and protocols and the process that you both agreed on, and set out and reinforce your boundaries. That can actually sometimes correct the problematic behavior and restore a relationship. So before you fire them, think about revisiting your boundaries and expectations and just do a review with them. You can also offer solutions, propose changes to the workflow, or suggest a different package or service level that, that could maybe suit their needs better. Maybe they've outgrown what they originally signed up for with you, and it's time to have that conversation. Again, before you sever the relationship. And then mediation or third-party referral. If the fit just isn't right anymore between you and your client, it's inherently difficult to have that conversation. Refer them to another editor or support person who might be a better match. There's a scene in the movie, What About Bob? And in the movie, What About Bob? We see the Bob character who is exhausting all of the doctors who support this person in their journey. And doctors are trying to unload this patient, this client, onto other people because it's not working. And you can see them desperately trying to move Bob from one doctor to another. And I see that happening sometimes in editing services where people are like, I'm done with this person and I'm just going to dump them on somebody else. Good luck. Don't call me back. And I'm done. I'm free. That's not a good feeling either. So be careful as an editor when somebody shows up as a fellow editor trying to offload one of their clients in a hurry. You might want to dig there a little bit before you accept a new client from someone else who is trying to get rid of a problem. Just keep that in mind. You might be able to maintain and repair the relationship before you fire them. Simply, again, by opening the communication again, revisiting the boundaries, offering different solutions that might work better, or trying to turn this client and send them into the direction of someone else who might be able to help them better. But how do you let a client go in a professional manner? You're a business, and you want your business to continue to grow after this relationship has been cut off and you fired your client, your business still needs to continue growing. And how do you fire someone without sabotaging your business and getting bad feedback, which could be spread out into your world and cause negative impact for you in the long term when your client you fired starts speaking poorly about you? Again, you might have been the problem. To let go a client in a professional manner, 6 things to consider here. First, review your contract. Check for any termination clauses, notice periods, any final payment of or deliverable requirements that ends the relationship. Make sure you review the contract you have with your client. Communicate directly with the client. This is not a time to be subtle and turtle. It's just time to be direct and clear communication, clearly understood. Wherever possible, deliver the message in person or via a call. Tone and empathy matter. Tone and empathy matter when you're coming to this decision to fire a client. Keep it factual, brief, and professional. Document everything. Keep written records of all communications, invoices, and the termination notice to protect yourself if a dispute arises. They might not take this the right way. They might take it a great way. It might be equally satisfying to them as well to end this relationship, but it could go sour. Settle all finances, send the final notice and final invoice or refund if appropriate, and make sure that all financial matters are resolved clearly. And then instead of onboarding, we are technically offboarding. And do it smoothly. Remove the client from your systems, revoke access to shared files and drives and all of that, and provide any necessary handover information to the next editor. Don't hold back things that would make it hard for the next editor to pick up and carry on. There's no reason for that. That's a fellow editor that you're dealing with. They may be your competition, but anything you can do to help them with files or attachments or whatever, that's a good relationship to do, is to continue that. You don't have a problem with another editor. You have a problem with this client. So keep that in mind. That new editor is going to need some things from you. Don't make it difficult. And wish them well. End on a positive note, because your reputation and future referrals really hinges on this done well, this firing done well. Even if the relationship was difficult, then do this in a way that honors your client. It's hard to do, but we're talking about ending this in a professional manner, not a hurtful manner. So what's an example of a script? And I'll put this in the notes. You can copy and tweak it as you wish. But here's an example of a script where you can then communicate this to your client and use terminology similar to this. So here's an example script for you. Hi, Dave. I really appreciate the opportunity to work together. After careful consideration, I believe it's in both of our best interests to end this working relationship. I'll ensure a smooth transition, and I'm happy to recommend another service provider if you wish. Thank you so much for your business, and I wish you all the best moving forward. Concise, to the point. It's not vague. It's not open-ended. It's very clear. This relationship is over. The key takeaway in all this for you as a podcast editor and support person, when firing a client, it should be your absolute last resort after everything else has been exhausted. It has to be clearly communicated, and it has to have boundaries set around it in this process. If you do need to part ways, approach the process as a professional. You're a business owner. Even if you only have a handful of clients, you're a business owner in this situation. Treat people well. even if the relationship has been strained. Have empathy. Be kind. Be gentle. Protect both your peace of mind and your reputation in the industry by how you fire your clients. This is not a personal attack on them, or even if they treated you terrible, you can still come out on the other end and not give that client you're firing a reason to tell others how horrible you are, because you're not. You really care about what you do and you care about your clients, and you don't want to cloud that by a bad experience and not handling the firing of a client the right way. Be a professional, step up, treat people with kindness, and treat people the way you would want to be treated. If you've ever been fired before, you know that this sucks. You know this does not feel good, and you're going to be angry if you're blindsided. My hope for you is you've had many conversations leading up to this decision, and this isn't something you just decided over the weekend, and you're just going to jump on it without any kind of background conversation and blindside your client with a firing out of the blue. Have conversations, have constant reviews, have relationship with your client beyond just editing the ums and ahs out of their podcast. Show up for them and build a relationship with these people. That's how you keep the good ones. But when it comes time to fire the ones that aren't working, do it, and do it as a professional would. If you have any questions, I'd love to talk to you. Reach out anytime. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.